If I stand strong, it's because I stand on the shoulders of those that come before me. I stand on the shoulders of my ancestors. I stand here, I prepare a place for those folks that are coming after me. I acknowledge them, and I thank those that have gone before me, and I welcome those that are coming after me. My journey to the food system didn't start because I love trees. It didn't start because I had a deep love for the forest or water. It didn't start because I was concerned about recycling or gardening or anything like that. My journey to the food system came basically because I became a mother. My son developed food allergies at a very early age. We learned at around 6 months, when he was about 6 months old, that he was allergic to all dairy products, shellfish, eggs, and peanuts. What I didn't know about the food system, I learned through my son's food allergies. Basically, I had to learn something that I had not ever known that I didn't know, which was food. I had to learn about food. My food education was a really steep learning curve. I was very used to just walking into a grocery store and just getting whatever I wanted and just kind of coming back out of it. But now when I walked into the grocery store, I had to walk into it with different eyes. So I'd walk into a grocery store knowing immediately that I could not deal with anything that was in the center of the grocery store, that pretty much everything that I wanted was along the perimeter of the grocery store. But that also had its problems, because along the perimeter of the grocery store, I'm looking for fresh fruits and vegetables, I'm looking for meat, I'm looking for dairy substitutes. But what I found out as I started to research the food system was that those foods weren't as pure as I thought they were. I found out that fruits and vegetables had been grown with pesticides or fertilizers put on products or produce while it was being grown that could be harmful to my child's health. I learned that there were antibiotics in the food system, in the meat supply, that I did not necessarily want my child to have access to. I didn't want my child to eat lettuce or any product that was grown with sewer sludge. I didn't want my child to eat anything that was genetically modified. Now, mind you, I have to tell you, I didn't know what that was. I just knew that I didn't want it for my child. And so my food education meant that I had to figure out, well, what is it that I'm really trying to get? But while I was learning about food, I was constantly getting information, and one of the images that I remember was reading the New York Times. And on the cover of the New York Times is a big picture of this big pile of grain. Greenpeace had apparently got a hold to like a whole lot of grain, 10 tons or 10 million tons or whatever it was, but it was a lot of grain, and they dumped it on Tony Blair's driveway. And I thought, as I looked at the picture, like, well, who is going to clean that up? Because I know Tony Blair don't probably clean up nothing. But more importantly, I thought, why are they so upset about it? And why aren't we in the United States as upset about genetically modified grain? If any of you are parents, or you take care of someone, or you take care of a sick person or a pet, you know that you have to get down to the real deal, which is, where am I going to get this food and what kind of food do I need? So I decided that what we were going to eat in our household was organic food. And I pretty much set about a course of finding it. I met a lot of farmers. I would go to their farms. I would buy food. I would go to farmers markets. I would go to stores that sold organic food. And I thought that was just pretty much what I had to do. Until one day I called my sister. And she wasn't home. I talked to my brother-in-law. And he said, Val's not in. She'll be back in 10 minutes. She went to the grocery store. And I'm like, 10 minutes? It'd take me all day to go grocery shopping. But it dawned on me that it took me all day to go grocery shopping. And so I started to think about, what is 10 minutes from my house? 10 minutes from my house, I could buy all kinds of fried chicken. I can get every variety of hamburger. I can get all kinds of malt liquor. I can get great varieties of cigarettes. and potato chips. I have access to every imaginable fast food franchise there is, 10 minutes from my house. But I cannot find an organic tomato. In fact, it's easier for me to get a semi-automatic weapon in my neighborhood than it is to get an organic tomato. As I began to think about that reality, I began to think about, well, what is it that we could do? We have to bring the food into our neighborhood. So I began to convert vacant lots to urban farm sites, create farmers markets, bring in African American farmers to get them to sell their products in our community, and the community would buy it from them, and we would have a great community event. And then we started to develop retail outlet, little store fronts to try to sell food to folks that was organic and grown on the urban farm sites, and get very involved in this whole citywide conversation around how do we get more food, how do we get more lots. And I started to travel all over the country and go to Costa Rica and Cuba, and I've been a lot of different places, and I came back to the west side of Chicago to do more work. And there's a little boy who's friends with my daughter in my house. And we're used to having a lot of kids over, always. And he sat there all day with me. I wasn't sure why. I noticed it, but I didn't think anything was strange or wrong with it. And he sat there until it was almost time for dinner. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to get up and it's time to make dinner. And I looked at him. I said, are you staying for dinner? And he said, I thought you'd never ask. I've been waiting all day for you to cook. Grandma ran out of food stamps, and she told me don't ask her for nothing else to eat. I was like, wow. I've not done this right. The solution that I thought was a solution was not really a solution, because there are urban farm sites in the front and there are urban farm sites in the back of our home. He lives right next door to me. I've got community-supported agriculture delivered to my house. I got boxes stacked on my porch. We have a farmer's market. We flyer the community every day. And here's a little boy standing in my living room looking at me saying that his grandma didn't have any food for him to eat. It dawned on me that there was really nothing wrong with the project in and of itself. The project was fine. It was reaching the people that it was reaching, but yet there were more people that needed to be gotten to. And so I realized immediately that my project would not go to scale. And I began to think about, well, what goes to scale? What can I do to make sure that every American eats? So I had to realize that one thing that I was looking for was the soul of the food system, meaning a food system that's sustainable, organic, urban, and local. The spirit of the food system has to exist with those parameters. But we had to dream bigger than what I was dreaming. It couldn't just be about a lot that was 25 by 170. We had to be talking about the entire country. We had to be talking about every child being able to eat, every family being able to feed itself. So I began to think about policy as the thing that can go to scale. I began to think about being a citizen and democracy, those things that go to scale. And it's my quest, my dream, my goal in life to make sure that every American, every person in the United States, whether they hold citizenship or not, has the right to food, and that our American food system delivers health, fairness, and a just food system for every American. What I want to talk to you about today is how to achieve that. And it's really important, I think, for you to understand that you can't buy your way into a food system. You can't shop at a particular place and think that your part of the food system is protected, so the other folks who don't have access to the food system are just unfortunate. There is just one food system. It feeds me, it feeds you, it feeds dogs and cats. It's a global food system. There isn't several food systems. And so where your food system may seem sustainable and someone else's food system is unsustainable, I'm here to tell you tonight that your food system is not sustainable. Your food system is just as fragile as someone who doesn't have access to food. You just have the illusion of access. And it's this illusion of access that I really want you to work on. So I'm going to give you an assignment. I know you all probably thought you were going to come and just kind of sit back and have a great chat, but I got something for you to do when you leave. Next time you go to the grocery store, I want you to get an item. Whatever item you choose, it's really up to you. And I want you to look at the item and see if you can figure out where it comes from. And not just where it comes from, but I want you to put a face on this item. Because I want you to ask exactly, who are you taking home with you when you take that item home with you? Are you taking home injustice when you take home that item? Are you taking home an item that was raised or harvested by someone who's been treated unfairly? Someone who is not paid properly for their labor? Or maybe you're taking home an item where someone is working in a situation or conditions that are unsafe and unclean? Are you taking home someone's pain and misery as a part of your meal? I want you to take that item and I want you to be fair. I don't want you to pick on the cashier and the stock clerks. Leave those people alone. They don't probably know. I want you to ask for the manager. And I want you to ask the manager, where does this come from? And I want you to wait for a response. And I would love it very much somehow for you to get back to me and tell me what people tell you. Because I think you will begin to understand that our food system really isn't as transparent as it should be. It's not always quite clear where things come from, who made them, what the nature of those items are. But if you buy it, eat it, or give it to your kids, you should know where at least half of it comes from. If you buy it, eat it, or give it to your children, you should know where it comes from. And the where, I'm cautioning you to go a little bit further than, I know the farmer that it comes from, or I know the general vicinity, or the lemon comes from Washington State, or wherever it comes from. But where in Washington does it come from? What conditions was it grown under? Beyond, was it grown as a part, was it grown with pesticides or fertilizers, but who labored so that you could have that item? Who labored so that you could have the meal that you had? If you're out at a restaurant, who's in the back washing the dishes, sanitizing the plates? Sometimes who's cooking the food? These are the things that we have to become aware of, because I need you to get involved in the food system. How many of you have heard of the Farm Bill? Not very many people. That's pretty good. Find out what the Farm Bill is. We have to go deeper than the Farm Bill, though. The Farm Bill really is how we feed ourselves and pretty much the rest of the world. What we have to do in the United States is really begin to understand that food is the civil rights issue of the 21st century. And what we have to also begin to understand is that we have to use our voice in order to change a food system that pretty much is killing us, either by work or by our health or in the way that other people are treated internationally. We have a food system that really has gone astray. And I guarantee you that each and every one of you can probably tell me ways in which it has gone astray in your life. So I'm asking you today to get involved. There was a point in my life that I thought I became a mom and I would protect my son. And that it was my job to make sure that he got the right education, that we lived in the right neighborhood, and that I kept him out of trouble and made sure he had the right friends, and that I would protect his potential. But I've since learned better. I've learned that my son came with his food allergies, and he is the one who is protecting my potential. He is the one that has introduced me to a love of the earth and a love of the land and a love of the soil that I would have never known without him. My son has come to help protect your potential.